Hi friends, it's Jackie from Kreativ. I'm an artist based out of Plymouth, Mass, and today I'm going to be taking you step by step through a really fun little drawing of some cows in a field. I do encourage you to make it your own, so if you'd like to add any other animals, change colors, feel free. When you are done, I'd love to see your artwork, so just take a photo and put it in the comments below. Today I'm going to be using crayons, but you can use whatever supplies you have, markers, pencils. I'm just using a 16 pack of Crayola crayons today, but check this out. My friend got me this and I'm so excited to play with it, all those colors, but I just have a few crayons out today. I'm just using my 16 pack, but whatever you have is perfect. I also have a few sheets of paper, construction paper, or just some computer paper will be great. So get nice and comfy. I'm just going to turn my camera and we'll get started. All right, so I hope you're having a good day. Let's get this ready. Hey Pa, how are ya? You can see that okay? Alright, so get nice and comfy. Make sure you have all your supplies ready. I like to make sure my colors are all kind of organized by color. And I also like to have a few pieces of paper so I can try things out. And that's about it. If you are using colored pencils, maybe have a pencil sharpener on hand. And if your crayons are getting a little dull, maybe ask an adult to help you sharpen those. You can use a handheld sharpener, and that works pretty well. So let's go ahead and talk about our picture. So I have 3 cows that are made out of some basic shapes, and I have them placed in different ways on my piece of paper. So I have a whole cow here, I have a half of a cow here, and then I have a smaller cow out back here. By making my cow big in the foreground, the bottom of my page, this cow looks a lot closer. This cow over here is only showing half his face, so it kind of makes us wonder what's beyond the edge of my page, which is really cool. And then this guy over here, I made him a little bit smaller so he looks like he's further away. We've also talked about shadow, right? Hi Dave, how are you? And the shadow I added, which really puts the ground down, right? And it adds some distance in my painting or drawing as well. And we've talked about adding layers of color. So I have layers of green, I have different amount of pressure that I used on my drawing as well. So let's get started. As we've been doing over these last few days, using our finger to kind of get our placement down. So I want to make sure I have enough room for all of my little friends on my page. And maybe you want to do a few different animals. A pig, a sheep. Start thinking about that. Think about maybe you want to have birds in your sky. So think about that while we're just kind of getting started. So with my finger, I'm going to go ahead and find the placement of my first cow. So I'm just kind of moving my hand on my paper saying, okay, I think this is where this guy's gonna go. And then I wanna see where this one is, the placement here. So I can leave this hand here, use my other one, and just kind of figure out the placement there, and the third one. And if you're like, I wanna have about 6 of them, you can go ahead and kind of figure out the placement of those as well. And another thing to do, and I think we've talked about this, is if you wanted to add more cows, before I would go on my main sheet of paper, I would make like a little drawing of a piece of paper, and then I would put my cows and kind of find the placement of them before I went on and did my big drawing. So I'm gonna put this one over here. This is gonna be my test paper. And we can start our cows. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to use a brown crayon, and I'll go back over it later with my black, but just to use my brown, and I'm going to use a light pressure. And my first shape that I'm going to be doing is going to be my oval for my nose. And just kind of look at what goes next, right? My next shape is this one here, which is almost like a square or rectangle, but it goes out a little bit, almost like our V's, right? So first shape is that oval, and I want to make sure that it's not too big, and I practice that with my finger. All right, and I'm going to take my brown crayon, and lightly I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that nice oval. The next step, let's go ahead and add our little head. So we talked about it's kind of like a square, but it also kind of goes up on an angle, right? So I could go on one side and go up. I can do the same thing on this side. So now I have two lines. Can you see that okay? And then I'm going to do the top. So I'm just going to connect the top just like that. Awesome. Let's go ahead and work on our body. So my body of my cow, this one here, I'm looking at him from the front, right? From his little face. So he's kind of a big guy, and I kind of made him almost like a rectangle. See that? You can make him a little bit more round if you'd like, but I'm going to do this kind of rectangle shape for my body. I'm going to find a point on my head. So I'm going to go up about here, and I'm going to move out. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to round my corners. So I'm going to round that corner, and I'm going to go ahead and add the other two sides, or the sides. And he doesn't have to be exactly like a total square. He can be a little bit rounded. And I'm going to go nice and light so when I go over it with the black, I can cover up any of my lines. He looks silly right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my little feet. I decided to do these kind of like V's. You could do them a different way if you'd like, but I'm going to create these little V's. He has these little legs. It's kind of funny. And I'm going to add some little feet, which are just squares. It's kind of cool to create an animal, create anything, and just kind of break it down into different shapes. It's funny how things are just shapes. And shapes of color. So I have my base shape of my my cow. Let's go ahead and add some ears. I'm going to add an ear here and an ear over here, and then I'm going to add these little horns on top, which are just little arches. We've done those before. I'm going to go ahead and add my ovals for my eyes. And then I'm going to turn my oval on its side and add the little nostrils on the nose. So think about how you like your eyes. Do you want your cow winking? Do you want to have, we could do a few. We could do eyes like this. We could do one open and one closed like he's winking. We could add eyelashes. We could do all kinds of things for our eyes, but I like to kind of practice and plan before I go ahead on my paper. I'm going to continue doing my ovals, and I'm going to do one here and one here. Now I'm going to turn my oval on its side, and I'm going to do an oval and an oval. I think he's really cute. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move up. I'm going to do this one here. Now this one is only showing half of him, his little face. So my oval is going to go off my paper, or it's going to be almost like a C, right? A backward C. Yeah, backward C. And I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller because, sorry, Mr. Call. I'm going to do this one a little bit higher, and I'm going to make him a little bit smaller. So my first mark is going to be a curve, or his little mouth or face, which is going to be just like that. And now I'm going to create his little forehead, which is almost like a 7. So I'm going to go up and over, and if you want to kind of round that out, you sure can. I'm going to add his body just like we did here. It's going to be that kind of a rectangle. If I were to continue, it would be a rectangle or a square, but if they're rounded corners. And I'm going to start right up here above his little nose. And I'm going to go out just a little bit, and I'm going to curve it down. Awesome. And I'm going to add 1 foot because I can't see the other one. Very cool. So let's go ahead and add our, we're going to add our ear. And I'm going to add that little horn. And let's add those eyes again. I'm going to do the same. And I'm just going to do my oval. And I'm going to do my sideways oval for my nose. I'm going to do a tail on this one here. And it is very simple. His little tail is kind of swinging. So I'm going to do a curve. And then I'm going to add that little top part. Nice. All right, so I'm going to let those be for a minute, and I'm going to go up here. Now, I have to kind of plan out where I want my third cow to be, because I want to make sure I have enough room for some sky. And to make him look far away, even if he's really close to this one, if I make him smaller, then he's going to look a lot farther away. So I am going to lightly create my horizon line, which is where the sky meets the ground. And I'm going to just do very light with my brown, and I'm going to use my finger first. So if you look over here, it starts right here, and I'm just going to do a gentle little slope. Does yours have, is it more straight across, or is there more of a hill? So use your finger first, and then go ahead and just lightly, we'll go over that with some green later. So now I know like where the placement of this cow is, and I'm going to start with his little nose, and I know that he is going to be a lot smaller than this one here. So I'm just going to kind of picture it with my finger, and I'm going to go ahead and add my oval. And the smaller you make it, the further away it's going to be. Just keep in mind that I think we want our little cow to be on the ground and not floating. So I have my cow's feet right in the ground. So I have my nose, and now I'm going to go ahead and do that same shape that we've been doing with adding our forehead, or our little head of our cow. Starting right about here, I'm going to go up, over, and down. And now I have a side view of my cow. So I have two front views, and now I have a side view. So I'm going to see a little bit more of the body. I'm going to see a little bit longer than I have on this one here. Go out a little bit longer, but we know that he's smaller because he's farther away. So I'm going to start right above his face, his little mouth, and I'm going to go out and maybe on a slight angle up. And then I'm going to curve his little bum, and I'm going to go ahead and add this part here now, creating almost like a rounded oval. Not oval, I'm sorry, it's a rectangle. But so I have that shape, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my little feet. These I created just little rectangles. You could continue on with these little pointed ones if you'd like, which I think I'm actually going to do because I like the way that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and add just my little triangles for my feet. And remember, we want to have their feet in our land. So this leg, I kind of stretched it. So I could have just changed that land line and just added it up, and I could have made that a little bit smaller. So it's always kind of a good idea to kind of plan and think about what you're going to do before you put your crayon down or any other medium. I'm going to add those little hooves, which are just those little rectangles or squares that we have on these right there. All right, let's add our ears, our eyes, and our nose, which are basically all just those ovals that we've been using. So here's 1, 2, and my 2 eyes. Is this one going to have a wink or eyes closed, or you're gonna do the same as you did for these. I think I'm gonna continue on with my same ovals. And then I'm gonna switch that oval on its side and add, oh, I think he's really cute. I added my little nostrils, and then let's go ahead and add that tail. So again, it's just those two little lines, and then he has that little, almost like our petals, or like an eyeball almost, is the tip of my tail. Awesome. All right, since I have my brown in my hand, I think I'm gonna go ahead and add my fence. Just like we created in our, by changing the sizes of our cows, I'm going to do the same thing with my fence. I'm going to say that my fence over here is a little closer than the fence over here. So my fence posts are going to be a little bit taller on this side, and as they go over here, they're going to be a little bit shorter. You could do them all the same size, that's totally fine, but I just wanted to try to add a little bit of depth into my picture. So what I'm gonna do is that with my brown crayon, I'm just gonna start adding my fence posts, and I'm gonna kind of do them evenly spaced. And these are gonna be my tallest. And I'm gonna start getting a little bit shorter as I go. And just like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my two lines. So I'm going to do 2 lines connecting each one. Keep in mind that be aware of the tip of your crayon, because I want to try to get a thin line for this. So I want to make sure I have a pretty sharp point, or just be aware of like your edge of your back of your crayon, and you can get a really nice thin line as well. So I'm going to start adding. For each little section, I do their own little rails, or just lines. Adding, maybe there's one that's broken and down. You can get as fancy as you like. Cool. All right. So we have some decisions to make. Do you want to do spots on your cows like I did? Or do you want to change that and maybe add hearts, flowers, any other patterns you want to add on your cows? These are yours. So I kind of went with the traditional spot, but I changed the color of my cows. So I have a purple, an orange, and I have a red. So start thinking about how you want to like decorate your cow. This is yours. And I'm going to show you how I did mine, but I'd love to see what you guys come up with. I'm going to go ahead with my purple. I'm going to get the purple in first, and then I'm going to go in with my black, because I know my black can really cover my purple. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my whatever color or whatever you'd like to do to decorate your cow, and I'm going to push down hard for the little nose, and then I'm going to do a lighter pressure on the body and the head and ears, and I'm going to push down again a little bit harder on the legs. So play with the amount of pressure that you're using on your crayon, and you can create some cool effects. You also could do patterns, you could do multicolored layers, you could do so many things. So start thinking about it. You always can practice on your test paper. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by filling in. I'm going to do my nose first. I like to kind of outline as I go, just kind of helps me define my areas. I will go back with my black. And I'm just filling in. Pushing down hard to get a dark, solid. And then I'm going to go light. Maybe go dark on those little tiny horns or bumps. I don't really know what they are. And I'm going to outline. You could even say, I don't want a black outline. Maybe you just want a harder, darker outline with your whatever color you're using. So you can keep that in mind. And if you have any ideas of what you would like to color or if you have any materials that you would like to play with, let me know what you have, and I would love to show you maybe some tips, or just show you a fun little project. So feel free to send me a message or just comment in the comment below. I would love to hear what you have and what you would like to create. This guy's had a lot of snacks. And I'm going to go ahead and start filling him in. If you want to get fancy, we've worked with adding our shadows. Maybe our head is creating a little bit of shadow on this part of my cow. And I'll have that outlined so it will really add a little bit of a pop. Make it a little bit darker. And you can go as light or as dark as you like. You could do that multicolored layer. Alright, cool. So I'm going to just change over to my my black crayon, and I'm going to start creating my spots on my cow. You could do hearts, you could do anything you'd like, but I'm going to make these kind of like these weird little shapes, and I'm going to do just like we did on this cow here, how it kind of gets cut off. I'm going to say that there's like, you know, more to my cow than what we see, so I could see the rest of my spot if I just walked around him, right? So I'm just going to create these little wiggly shapes, and I'm going to fill them in. I'm using a lot of pressure to get a nice dark spot. Just adding any spots I'd like. They could be flowers, or it could have a word, like letters on them. That'd be kind of interesting. Or little smiley faces, rainbows, whatever you'd like. And again, when you're outlining, just be aware of the edge of your crayon. If it gets a little dull, sometimes it makes a big mark. So I'm just going ahead and outlining, and I'm going to add my eye, which he's going to have these eyes kind of looking down. Maybe he's like looking at a snack that he wants to have. And I'm going to add my outline. I'm going to fill in his little toes are going to be black. And I'm just going to keep outlining as I go. And I'm thinking about like if I'm going to change the color or what pattern I'm going to do. I'm going to fill the nostrils in black. And I'm going to add this here. And you can kind of see that I went a little bit heavier or more pressure on this cow than I did here. So I have, it's definitely a different look. I think I like them both. I might like this one a little bit better, but that's fine. So I'm going to switch crayons once I'm done. And I'm going to start this guy here. And I am going to be using the orange crayon. And I'm going to push hard, and I'm going to get a nice dark nose. And then I'm going to do a nice light coat on the forehead and on the body. I'm going to get darker on that tip of that tail and on the legs. Also think about the direction of your mark. Is it going in all different directions? Are you using a circular motion? Are you going side to side or up and down? Kind of changes the way it looks. I'm also going to add a little darker, a little bit more pressure on the leg right there and on that tip of that tail. And I have my forehead to go and my ear. Again, thinking about the amount of pressure I'm using on my crayon and the direction of that mark. And I'm going to make this horn a little darker, a bit light up there. Cool. So I'm going to switch over to my black crayon. Maybe you want to outline it in a different color or add any other details, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to continue with my spots, and I'm going to, whoop, that's okay, start filling in these spots here, creating different shapes. I'm going to add another one right here. Maybe your cow has a little spot on his forehead. I'm going to add one. And we can add our details of our outline. Again, I'm going to add my eye. I'm going to outline that. My nostril, I'm going to fill in black. You could do a different color if you'd like. And then I'm going to go ahead and add any of those outlines to really make my cow pop. So I'm just going to take my time, being aware of my crayon. And if you would like to paint with me, I will be having a paint party coming up. I believe there's one tomorrow scheduled. We're going to be doing an owl. Of course, you can use your crayons, markers, or any other materials you have. I'll be using acrylic paint, but you could use your watercolors, your tempera, anything you have will be perfect. I believe that is at 11. Very good. And I'm going to go ahead to my next cow. I'm going to be doing red. Same thing. I'm going to add my darker sections. Oop, I see something I want to just kind of fill in. Awesome. All right, I'm going to find my red crayon, and I'm going to do the same thing that we just did on these two on this one here. So I'm going to add my dark nose, dark legs, tip of my tail, and then I'm going to keep everything else pretty light. Filling it in. And make it nice and light. And I'll go back in. Is this one going to have the same pattern that you've done on the other ones, or is there going to be a different pattern? Alright, and I get that black crayon. And I'm going to start adding those details. So I'm going to add the eyes, the nose. I'm going to add an outline on his ears, head. Just make everything really pop. And you could do just a different color, or you could just go really hard with your color, whatever color you decided to do your cow. I'm going to fill in those little feet. And time to make those spots. So I'm going to be doing smaller spots because he's smaller and further away. And I'm pushing down really hard. If you break your crayon, it's okay. And I'm going to add one on his little forehead. And I'm going to add, I forgot to add his horns on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and add them on this because I just like them. I think they're cute. They're these little bumps that are on their forehead. And I'll outline that. Awesome. All right. So take your time, and you always can go back and add any other detail, second coats, to add some interest. I'll just kind of show you on this one. I have a red violet here. I'm going to go over this section here just to show you that you can create a really cool look. You also, if you have anything at home like glitter or anything else, it's kind of cool to add other materials. So it's called multimedia, adding multiple. So you could do your background in colored pencil, your cows in crayon, your sky in watercolor. It kind of creates a really cool look. So think about that maybe for your next project if you want to use multiple mediums. All right, see, that's a cool look. And let's go ahead and work on our grass. So we've done this before, added our shadow, which is going to be darker than the rest of the grass. I'm going to start with a light green base. I'm going to go over and add my shadows with my dark green, and then I'm going to lightly shade over everything to give it a little bit more interest, that darker green. So we'll kind of mix and play with our color. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my light green crayon, and I'm going to go ahead and start filling in my grass. Think about the direction of your crayon and slow it down, because I'll show you here, if I grab or go over my black, it will pull it into my drawing, which is kind of cool look. But if you don't want to kind of smudge your crayon, just be aware of where you're coloring. So slow it down. And I'm using the side of my crayon. When you're working on big spaces like this, it's kind of cool if you have, like, if you save your broken crayons, because it will save the tip if you use a broken crayon already, right, and do your big areas, because you can use the whole side of it. And I was talking with a friend today about coloring, and they said that they really like to have something really smooth or other pieces of paper underneath what they're working, because they don't like to have any texture being created from any surface. So that's something to think about too, because sometimes if you have like a bumpy surface and you're using a crayon, you're really going to see that. So just be aware of what is underneath your paper as well. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and start adding some longer pieces of grass. I'm going to start with my light green. I'm going to add interest by adding layers. Maybe think about your grass being a little bit shorter back here because it's further away, and a little bit longer down here because it's closer to you. And I'm just going to do a few here and there. And I'll switch to my dark green. You could add some flowers. And then let's add our shadow. So we've done this before. I'm gonna go back and forth, right to left, and I'm gonna be using my darker green. And I'm just going to create underneath my cows, I'm gonna add my shadow. There's one. Adding this there. And I'm gonna go up here. Very cool. I can even add a little bit of shadow. Maybe some of my grass is casting a little bit of shadow. So I can just add a little bit of dark back and forth right underneath my bottom of my grass, which creates a little bit of shadow. And I can lightly go over my whole grass to add a little bit more interest. Or you just keep that light green. Maybe there's a little bit of mud here and there, so you could always add maybe a little bit of brown. Let's try that. I'm gonna add a little bit of dirt. Why not? Maybe you have a few flowers. Just start thinking about adding some detail. One little flower. And I'm going to go up to my sky. I'm going to start with my yellow and I'm going to do a circle. You could do your sun in the corner or however you like that. And before I fill in my sky, you can kind of decide if you want to add any clouds. I'm going to show you a really simple way to make a cloud. I'm going to take my blue crayon or whatever color I decide to make my sky. And I like to think about how long I want my cloud to be and of course where I would like my cloud to be. I'm going to lightly add the length of my cloud, and then I'm going to think of my top of my cloud almost as steps. So if I were to stand at the top of this step and take a step down, take a step down, same thing on the other side, step down, step down. That's how I like to think about my clouds, as almost as steps. So I figure out where I want the tallest or highest step, and that's a curve, excuse me, a curve or like a frown. And I'm going to go ahead and add a second one and then a third one, or however many you need to get to the end of your line, but they get shorter as they go. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I think this one I only have 2 steps. I'm going to do 1 and 2. And of course, I always could do one off my page. Like I think I'm going to do that one over here. I'm going to change it over here. Then I'm going to add my highest, and then I'll step down one way. I could do fit 2, and this one I'll just fit 1. All right, let's go ahead on our page here. I'm going to do one that's off, and I'm going to do it on this side here. I'm going to add a nice light line, and then I'm going to add my tallest or highest step, which is just my little curve. And I'm going to add as many steps down as it takes to get to the end of my line. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side here. You could do clouds all different ways because they are always changing and every cloud is different. It's just a fun way that I like to make them. I'm going to make a line here, and I'm going to make my highest step, and I'm going to step down. Same thing over here. Very cool. And you can add as many clouds as you like. One more thing, I think I'm going to add one more, and I'm going to make this one really small to really show that it's really far away, just like we kind of did in our painting or drawing here. So I'm going to add a little small guy right over here. So be aware of the tip of your crayon. So now that one looks far away, and I'm going to go ahead and start shading in my sky. I'm going to decide which way I would like my mark to go. You could do on a diagonal, you could do side to side, you could do up and down, whatever makes you happy. I'm going to do side to side today, and I'm going to do 2 layers of color. I'm going to do my my blue, and then I'm going to do my light blue crayon, and I'm going to go all the way down to my grass. So I'm going to go in between or over my fence posts. And slow it down when I get to my clouds, because I want to keep those clouds nice and white. Maybe you could think of some names for your cows. And I'm going to go right around my sun. Outline it a little just because I feel like it. Keeping that same direction for my sky. And there it is. I'm going to add that light blue. And just going to take a peek at it and see if I want to add any other details, if I want to add a second layer into my shadows, if I want to add anything else. You can write your name, sign it, add your cow names, whatever you'd like to add into your picture. Thank you so much for coloring with me. I hope you had fun. I would love to see your artwork, so just take a photo and place it in the comments below, and I hope to color with you again soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye guys.